Why did the tofu cross the road? Because it wanted to prove it wasn't chicken. Ah, a classic. A harmless joke to get us started. But don't worry, we won't be sticking to the light stuff. We're going to delve into the world we live in. A world riddled with absurdities and oversensitive souls. We'll navigate the minefield of what offends, who it offends, and why it offends. So, buckle up. Now that we've got the tofu joke out of the way, let's dive into the real meat of the matter. In a world obsessed with avocados, it's surprising that being fat is still considered a bad thing. I mean, come on. We live in a society where people would rather take a photo of their avocado toast than eat it. And yet, when someone dares to enjoy a second helping of dessert, they are met with judgmental glares. Talk about hypocrisy. You see, the world is a paradoxical place. We celebrate food, we plaster it all over social media, we make TV shows about it. Food is love, food is life, right? But heaven forbid you show any evidence of actually enjoying it. The moment you tip the scale a little too much, you're suddenly an outcast. Isn't that just a tad bit ridiculous? And let's not forget the irony of the fitness industry. They sell us on the dream of a perfect body, while simultaneously stuffing our faces with protein bars that taste suspiciously like candy. It's like selling cigarettes in a lung cancer ward. Then there are the diet fads. One day, carbs are the enemy. The next day, they're your best friend. It's like being in an abusive relationship with your pantry. And let's not even get started on gluten. Half the world is terrified of it, and the other half doesn't even know what it is. We are a society of contradictions, folks. We idolize skinny models, yet we binge-watch cooking shows. We shame people for being overweight, yet we glorify indulgence. It's a never-ending cycle of eat, regret, repeat. So here's a novel idea. How about we stop judging people by their waistlines and start focusing on their character? Because the last time I checked, the size of your jeans doesn't define your worth as a human being. So remember, you're not fat, you're just fat, and that's okay. Apparently there are more genders than there are episodes of Friends. Now, don't get me wrong, Friends was a great show, but even Ross, the paleontologist, would have trouble digging through the layers of this societal strata. In our brave new world, we've got so many genders that the old he and she pronouns are looking like a pair of dinosaur fossils. They've become outdated, like the flip phone or the concept of common sense. Now we've got a whole new vocabulary to learn, with words that sound like they were created by a love child of J.K. Rowling and Dr. Seuss. Let's take a gander at the list, shall we? We've got cisgender, transgender, genderqueer, non-binary, agender, pangender, gender fluid, androgynous, neutrois, and two-spirit. And those are just the ones I can pronounce. It's like someone threw a handful of Scrabble tiles into a blender and just went with whatever came out. If you're keeping track, congratulations. You're probably the type of person who can remember all the names of the kids and 19 kids and counting. But for the rest of us mere mortals, it's like trying to remember the periodic table while being waterboarded. Now, I'm not saying people can't identify however they want, you do you, boo, but expecting everyone else to remember all these labels? That's like expecting a goldfish to perform brain surgery. It's a Herculean task. And last time I checked, we're not all Greek demigods. So here's a thought. How about we stop focusing on labels and start focusing on people? Because at the end of the day, we're all just humans trying to make sense of this crazy, mixed-up world. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a voice on a YouTube video. So, if you're confused, don't worry, we're all confused, and if you're not, well, you're probably lying. Men chase women like dogs chase cars. They wouldn't know what to do with one if they caught it. It's a game of cat and mouse, or should I say, dog and car. Men, bless their hearts, they're like golden retrievers chasing after a shiny sedan, tongues lolling out, eyes gleaming with desire. They'll run after a woman like she's the last slice of pizza at a frat party, but ask them what they'd do if they actually caught her, and they'd probably stare at you like you'd just asked them to explain quantum physics. And then we have women. Oh, the fairer sex. They're not immune to this chase, but they've got their sights set on a different prize, the wallet. Yes, my friends, the green, shiny, leather-bound symbol of security and prosperity. Women will chase a man for his money like a vegan chases a tofu burger. It's a sight to behold, really. They flutter their eyelashes, laugh at his bad jokes, and endure hours of sports talk, all for the chance to get their hands on his credit card. But let's not forget about our heroes, the men. They're not just chasing women for the fun of it. Oh no, they're in it for the validation, the attention, the ego boost. It's like a drug to them. One smile from a woman and they're floating on cloud 9. One rejection and it's like they've been shot. It's a hilarious, absurd spectacle, this love chase. You'd think we were still living in the Stone Age, with men hunting for women and women hunting for resources. But alas, we're in the 21st century, and yet we're still running around like headless chickens, chasing after things we don't really understand. So, the next time you see a man chasing a woman, just remember, he probably doesn't even know how to drive. Vegans, they're like zombies, but instead of brains, they want to eat your guilt. Vegans, bless their hearts, are the moral compass of the food chain. They're like the Jehovah's Witnesses of the dietary world, knocking on the door of your conscience with a handful of kale. Have you heard the good news? They ask. You too can be saved from the sin of eating animals. They're always ready to baptize you in almond milk and lead you towards the light of tofu. But here's the catch. Vegans, while they feast on the high horse of morality, often get a bad rap. They're seen as the monsters under our beds, ready to pounce and suck the joy out of our bacon-wrapped lives. It's a strange world where the ones advocating for compassion become the boogeymen. But, let's be honest, it's not their message that scares us, it's the delivery. Imagine you're at a party enjoying a sizzling steak, and suddenly out of nowhere a wild vegan appears. They lock eyes with you, their gaze as cold as the soy ice cream they had for dessert. You can almost hear the Jaws theme playing in the background. You know what's coming. You're about to be schooled on the horrors of factory farming, the methane emissions of cows, and the nutritional wonders of quinoa. Your steak suddenly tastes a lot like guilt, but here's the ironic part. The more they try to make us feel guilty, the more they're seen as villains. It's like they're starring in their own vegan horror movie, Night of the Living Dead Vegetables. They're not just fighting against the meat industry, they're fighting against their own stereotype. In the end, we're all just trying to navigate this crazy world, one meal at a time. Some of us with a burger in hand, others with a carrot. But one thing's for sure, guilt should never be on the menu. So remember folks, the next time a vegan tries to eat your guilt, just tell them you're on a guilt-free diet. Well folks, we've covered a lot of ground today. From tofu to genders to vegans, it's clear that we live in a world that's easily offended. And oh boy, hasn't it been a buffet of absurdity? We've seen how the world has been turned into a giant scale, weighing every ounce of fat and every stray calorie. We've discovered that gender has more twists and turns than a cheap garden hose. And we've learned that love is not so much a battlefield as a dog park, where men scurry around like poodles on caffeine and women, well, they're just looking for the biggest bone. We've also peered into the dark, leafy abyss that is veganism. Who knew that a diet could be as controversial as a presidential election? And let's not forget our dear teenagers who'd trade their souls for a shiny new car and a fistful of dollars. Ah, youth, as fleeting as the talent in new generation rappers. In this wild, wacky world of ours, it's all too easy to step on a landmine of offense, but isn't that part of the fun? The thrill of navigating this impossible maze of sensitivities and sensibilities, armed with nothing but our wit and a healthy dose of sarcasm? Remember, it's a crazy world out there, so keep your sense of humor close, your tofu closer, and for goodness sake, stay away from the vegans.